What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name's Michelle. Today is October 17th of 2023. And last week I went to my local township board meeting to present a resolution to keep the rezoning for wind and solar to the township, the power to rezone, to keep it at the township level. Because right now, in case you didn't know, the Michigan government, the state government, is trying to take that power from the township level to the state level because too many townships have been saying they don't want wind and solar in their rural areas. And so, in order to bypass the people, they want to send the power over to Michigan Public Service, I believe, is uh, the state arm that is going to take control over the rezoning power. So I went to present this resolution, and this was the first time that I went to my board. This year, I'm going to give you some background, okay? Because the grassroots movement here in Michigan is real, and it is being infiltrated by shadowy stuff. And so I am going to tell you everything that I can so that you are aware that this could be happening even if you have grassroots movements. So I have an article to share with you about basically accusing the grassroots movements of being astroturfed, and I want to put that to bed because that's not the truth at all. What's happening is there is a real grassroots movement, and it's being hijacked if possible and infiltrated. So I went to the township board meeting and I presented the resolution, and I was not very happy with the way that my township supervisor addressed me when I presented this. He kept trying to get me to admit that I am against wind and solar. And that was not what the resolution was about, and that was not why I was there. I was there to keep it at the township level. It does not matter what I think or feel. I want the people to have a say. I want the people to have power, not the government, not the state government, certainly not. And so what I was presenting was that I would like for the township board to pass this resolution, to obviously review it and pass it to keep the power at their township level. And again, he was aggressive with me, asked who I was and where I lived, and he's been a supervisor for 20 years. There's no doubt he's been captured now that I have been there and I have tried to get this EV resolution. I got it in front of their face, so at least there's that. The beginning of the year was the first time I've ever been to a township board meeting. And the first one I ever went to was the Big Rapids Township Board meeting. And it was only because of no Gotion. And I wanted to figure out what was going on. Well, it was about Gotion in general, but I am no Gotion. But again, I just want the people to have a say. If you want wind or solar in your area, in your township, then by all means, you vote and you can have your wind and solar. I'm not denying that to people. I don't want to deny that to people. I want just the power of the vote to stay at the township level. And again, his aggression towards me was very telling to me. I'm not going to go any further than that. So the Big Rapids Township Board, when I first arrived, and that was the beginning of this year. I've never been active in politics. And I still don't like politics, even though I talk geopolitical stuff, is because of power, right? So I'm getting into a lot of stuff today because after that township board meeting, I had another incident where I found out that at Vivek Ramaswamy's rally, there was a ban list. And both sides, both pro-Gotion and no-Gotion individuals, were on that ban list. Now, the people that put it together was MESA, the Mecosta Environment. I should know the name of it. I have it here somewhere, but the Republicans put it on, okay? And they had a ban list of individuals, and that ban list was not based on like the fact that those people would be aggressive. It was that they could say something. And another incident that happened was that there was an individual holding up a sign that says something about being pro-communist, and that individual was kicked out, from my understanding, and I'm not for that. Now, I'm not a communist, but I fought for this country so that you had freedom of speech. If you wanna hold a sign that says you're a communist, you should be able to hold a sign that says you're a communist, even at Vivek Ramaswamy's rally. By the way, good morning, Kelly, and everybody else. I appreciate you being here. Today's topic is heavy because I have had an epiphany after I've gotten a few puzzle pieces. This Vivek Ramaswamy puzzle piece, which again, both pro Gotion and no Gotion individuals were banned from the rally, and they were not going to be aggressive. But so that's censoring speech. Okay, I don't like that at all. So I'm going to call that out. The other thing is that there is a EV task force video out there. I don't know if you've seen it or not. And the whoever made the video, it's very secretive. And because of that, there are certain publications like MLive that are saying, maybe that the grassroots movement is just astroturf. It's just politics, right? It's just to win next year the Republican Party. And so I want to tell you my experience from the beginning of this year getting into all of this, because there's so much going on. Again, it's hard to find the shadow. So I go to the Big Rapids Township Board meeting, and the first individual I see, I meet in the parking lot. And at first I'm a little worried because I put out a flyer probably 2 weeks before that board meeting, not knowing that there was already a small resistance, grassroots people that did not want it, that did their due diligence, and that did not want the plant there. And then there was a small group of individuals that were very pro Gotion, and they're same individuals as today. And I met resistance with the pro Gotion people on a site called, or the Facebook group called Ask Big Rapids. So I was on Ask Big Rapids, and these individuals, after I shared my flyer that said the 3 biggest fears that I had at the time were fire, environment with the chemicals and everything, and China. I had no idea that China was going to be the Republican talking point and everything else, because I'm a political atheist, okay? I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not even libertarian, although they're the most understandable to me, because this is really establishment versus anti-establishment. And so I show up, I meet this individual. Luckily, this individual at the Big Rapids Township meeting was not the individual that was very aggressive with me, that was pro Gotion. And so thankfully that those individuals weren't there. And you know what? I haven't met them or seen them yet. Now, it's not to say that I have not been around them, but they've never talked to me, and I don't recognize them because it was just on Facebook that they were super aggressive. And I'm going to talk more about them in a minute. So I go in, and the very first person that meets up with me is a Republican named Orman Hook. Now he is big. He's involved with MESA. And that individual came up to me and said, I've watched your videos. There's individuals that saw my YouTube videos, because I've done a few now at that point, diving into the Gotion stuff. And that's why some of them were there. And that individual, Orman Hook, just said, "Hey, here's my card. If you need any help or something." He said something about if you're on our side. And at that time, I thought what he meant was, on the no Gotion side, because all my videos were just talking about the fact that I don't want Gotion here. And it's not even all about China. China was a factor, but it's mostly about my river. Okay. I don't want chemicals on my river, upriver from me. That's really it. Was born and raised in Michigan. I'm a true Michigander. I am not astroturf. I'm not political in any way. I just want my river to be protected. And that's how I got into this fight. And so I didn't understand what I was getting myself into, obviously. So I show up, and there was a lot of people there, but everybody there was friendly and, helpful. And Orman Hook, I have not ever had a problem with him. However, he hasn't talked to me in the last 6 months or 7 months. and probably because he knows that I am not a Republican, and I'm a political atheist. And so I'm just going to tell the truth. That's what I'm for. I am for the truth. I just want to tell people what's going on, and I want to show you with all the research that I do. So I know my videos are long, but every video I've done at least 10 hours of research, and I'm packing it into 2 hours. And I really think that these things are important for people to understand so that they can make a plan. Because I'm a type of person, thanks to my military brainwashing, you prepare for the worst and you hope for the best. And so that's what I'm trying to help my community members and any Michigander that will listen, which, I am so thankful to you guys that you will listen because it's so hard to find people that want to hear the truth. Most people want to stay in the Matrix, and that movie is what they're trying to build. Okay, is the Matrix. So I talked to Orman Hook for a minute, but I really don't understand what he's saying to me. I'm no Gotion. That's why I'm there. And then I sit down, I see the board meeting. Bill Stanek is there. He is the supervisor, and I have a video on him where there's a fat cat on the thumbnail. Okay, I can't get more clear than that. He is absolutely captured. He is up for recall as well. I hope that he gets out of there. What I found in one of the pieces of the epiphany that I had is that the 3 township board meetings that I've been to, the 3 different township boards, they're all captured. The supervisor specifically is captured. And that that was one very worrying thing. So the other one I went to was Green Charter Township after that, when I found out that Big Rapids was actually out of the deal with Gotion because I asked too many questions. So I moved on. Now, that's not to say that muckraking isn't needed there in Big Rapids. Muckraking is needed everywhere, which is another reason why I try to show you exactly how I'm doing it. I go to all these different sites, different jargon and keywords so that you can see this for yourself, because this is happening in every township in every state. And so I go to the Green Charter Township Board meetings and see, of course, that Jim Chapman is captured. And we all know, well, if you've been at this channel any length of time, you know that the Green Charter Township Board is being recalled, and with good reason. They did not listen to the people, even when the people started telling them. They didn't do a survey. There's so much shady thing, so many shady things going on there. So they're being recalled. And again, we need more muckrakers. We need people. Everybody has a smartphone. You need to maybe get a gimbal, $100. I know it's an investment, and then a microphone, which is the biggest investment that you have to do because you have to have a good microphone. I'm saving up right now for one so that I can do better when I go out to these meetings. So if you can, please invest in that. Start muckraking yourself. We have the problem everywhere. So I meet with those individuals at Big Rapids. I find out that they're out. I go to the Green Charter Township Board meetings, and they're being recalled. I went to, for full disclosure, the Republicans have jumped onto the grassroots movement. Now, to me, it makes sense, right? If the people, are grassroots, real grassroots, if the people are saying that we don't want Gotion, or we want a survey done at least, we want a vote. From the beginning, it was we want a vote. And that is the same is true with the wind and solar, and they keep taking our power away. And so there are so many different ways that the government is showing us the truth, that it's not the Russians that we need to be worried about. It's the Russian government, sure, but the Russians, their government has taken over them too. It's everywhere. It's the Russians, the Chinese, the Americans, Germany. The governments around the world are not listening to the people. And so that tells you something. That tells you that they're at war with us. That's who they're really at war with. They are working together against the people. And that is part of the epiphany I had, and it gets into cyber Polygon, which is something, an exercise that the World Economic Forum did in 2021 about power outages. So it all comes together. But the corruption, the infiltration, we can't let the government get in between us and our neighbor. That is the biggest epiphany that I had, and I know it sounds maybe obvious, but let me explain further. So, not only did the Republicans censor speech, because here's the thing, both Republicans and Democrats, politicians in general, the ones that go to Washington, absolutely. The ones that go to Lansing, there are a few that are good, I think. There's few, like, I'm gonna call out my Newaygo representative, Joseph Fox. Everything that I've seen from him has been, he has my trust as of right now, and he's been fighting and trying to help the people in his community. He's pro-human, and there are so few like that, but he goes to Lansing. So there are a few in Lansing that are really want to help their people. They're the only ones that are a little connected. The Molinars, the ones that go to Washington, they are not real people. They're disconnected. They don't know what's going on with us. I have to tell you. So I went to, I know I'm all over, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to explain to you how I know that these are grassroots movements. Everybody that I've met in all these meetings that are against Gotion have been really nice and very concerned about where they're living, and they just want a say. So the people that are against Gotion, or sorry, the people that are for Gotion, like on Ask Big Rapids, which they blocked and deleted me on Facebook, and then now they have an Only Things Goshen page. And they'll bring up stuff like the lithium comes from Argentina that's going to be at Goshen. And so I do a 5-second Google search and I find that the indigenous populations of Argentina are trying to stop the lithium mining, and the government and the corporations, a public private partnership has taken place. And so the indigenous populations are being trodden upon, and that's the lithium that's coming to us. We are part of that supply chain. And I pointed that out. I sent, these are articles about something you're talking about. They deleted them all. And when you delete the truth of a thing, that tells me everything. The no Goshen side has not deleted information as far as I've seen, as long as it has to do with Goshen. They have been way more open with their speech and what they allow to be presented. And so that, again, that's very telling to me. When you are going to deny the fact that there are indigenous populations that are being decimated by lithium mining, and that we are directly involved in that if we allow Goshen to be here, you are denying the truth. So with all that going on, there is infighting in Big Rapids with the two groups, and it is devastating. And I did say in the last video that it is hard to find common ground. But in the end, Vivek Ramaswamy lives in New York. He doesn't live here. And so if something were to happen, like the power goes out, our neighbors are all we have. And so I have to keep reiterating, and I'm going to every time for the duration of this channel, that you have to love your neighbor, and you have to, try to understand your neighbor, because again, if the power goes out, let's say for 6 months, can you imagine the devastation? You have to help the elderly that are around you survive. There you mean I know okay, I'm not trying to sell you fear here ever. No fear, fear is a mind killer. What I'm trying to do is just share with you my understanding of what's going to happen next year, and why I see this pattern, and try to again explain to you how there is infiltration in these grassroots movements, but the grassroots movements themselves are real. These are real people that care about their communities, and the governments are gaslighting us. So tomorrow, the Wind and Solar Initiative is going to be voted on in the House, I believe. And so tomorrow at 9 a.m., if you can get to Lansing, if you're here in Michigan, please get to Lansing. 8:30 to show up a little early, but 9 o'clock is when the meeting starts, because they're trying to take the power from the local people. And so as many people as we can to show up and say we want to keep the power at the local level, at the township level, the better. Strength in numbers. It's all we have. All we have is each other. Because these politicians, they remind me of crackheads, okay? And now let me explain. I know a couple crackheads. and they are nice enough people, but I know never to get in between them and the drug. The drug has them. And if you replace crack with power, you have a politician. And so you have to be aware that they are addicted to power, and the drug has them. And so they are real people, and you have to love them, but you have to understand they're not reliable and that they will do whatever it takes for the drug. And again, that's all of them in Washington, majority of them in Lansing. There are a few exceptions, and they are real people, and we have to pray for them, okay? I do not want their hate doesn't do anything. It's love that will change the world. But we can't be naive either, right? We have to be aware of this. So, my township board has not done anything about it. I don't know if they will. I sent another email about the wind and solar. So, my township board is not a part of the 20 something township boards around the state of Michigan that has come up with an ordinance or a resolution to block the state from stealing the power. And that is concerning. Next year is the elections, hopefully. And the individual, the supervisor, has been, again, 20-year career politician, captured, absolutely. And he'll be gone next year. Now I'm going to have to be very diligent on who is looking to take their place, because it's obvious that the powers that be know that they have to work at the local level, and that's the township here in America, in Michigan. As of right now, they're trying to get rid of it, basically. That's what's happening. But we need to try to stop it. But at the same time that we're trying to stop it, we need to learn who our neighbors are. We need to love our neighbors as ourselves. And if there are some neighbors that are aggressive and that will deny the truth, and I have something to share with you. Oh no, I think I might have. There it is. Okay. This is from Proverbs 25, 21, 22. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. I haven't read much of the Bible, but this one stuck out to me because of personal reasons. And I try to remember that always, okay? So even those people that were aggressive to me on the Facebook page and made me nervous to go to the Big Rapids, I almost didn't go to the Big Rapids Township Board because I was nervous. I didn't realize these people are just keyboard warrior cowards. So I have to remember that those individuals, if the individuals that hated on me for the last 3 years, if they were hungry, I would feed them. If I had food, if they were thirsty, I would give them water. And so that's one of the solutions that I have for you that we need to remember, and it's very difficult. I'm not saying it's easy whatsoever, but it's one of the only solutions that I know to be true. Because again, if the power goes out for 6 months, like I'm going to show you, I think they have this plan for next year. And this is just pattern recognition, okay? That's another thing I wanted to say. I'm going to talk more about it tomorrow in my 15-minute city, Grand Rapids becoming a 15-minute city video. But conspiracy theory just means pattern. They recognize patterns. They're looking at the research and they recognize patterns. They're saying what they're going to do. There's a Event 201 was a pandemic exercise in 2019. Cyber Polygon is a cyber pandemic attack exercise that happened in 2021. So, and I don't think we can stop this part. Now, what we're doing at the grassroots level is really the MEDC versus the people and Eagle. So MEDC and Eagle are the two fists in every government. You will find environment. Well, it's not called Eagle, maybe in Texas, but you still have an environmental fist that your government will use against you. And then you have the economic development corporations. Every state has it. This is the fist. These are the fists that they're using to beat up the people. And so at the end of the day, I almost feel more like a statist than a nationalist, because if every state has to figure out what battle is there, every state has one, and you need to fight for your state. The people need to fight for themselves, and they're fighting against their own state government. because again, the state government is trying to take power. Now, when I say fight and when I say war, I'm talking about civil disobedience. I'm talking about, nonviolent resistance. I'm talking about saying no. Saying no. You're not going to take our power. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm not for violence. I think Gandhi had the right way for the most part. His diet, maybe not so much, but I read his autobiography, thinking it was going to talk about nonviolent resistance, but unfortunately, it didn't. It talked about his diet. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. Gandhi got Britain out of India using nonviolent resistance. I feel like we could do this all across the world if we were aware of what is going on and what they have planned for us. So I went to the board meetings. We're still fighting Gotion, but unfortunately, as of right now, it's going through because our government isn't listening to any of us. And these grassroots movements are real, but Republicans have come to help. Now, again, it makes sense that governments would come to help. Like, no, take that back. That's not what I'm trying to say. It makes sense to me that the Republicans would be the ones that the grassroots movement would align with, because here in Michigan, we have had Governor Whitmer, who has been a tyrant for 3 years. And so people that were for freedom have started grassroots movements, and they've been leaning Republican. So the Republicans have more anti-establishment feel, but it's not really anti-establishment. Now, again, that's not to say the grassroots Republicans are not anti-establishment. I'm talking about the people that go to Washington, and most of them that go to Lansing. The Republicans that are like grassroots Republicans of Newaygo, those are real people that are just grassroots that have been trying to fight the power, and the Republicans have helped or have been saying they're helped. It's the same thing with Lori Brock, who has the majestic Frisian horse farm where Vivek Ramaswamy's rally was held. I completely understand her. She is a woman that has built her whole life around her Frisian horse farm, and she is desperate because right across the street, her beautiful, majestic view is about to be destroyed to put in an EV battery plant. I completely understand Lori Brock, and I feel sorry for her. The MESA has latched on to Lori Brock. I'm hoping that Lori is using them and they're not using Lori. Because again, I knew Lori in another life back when I was 18, right before I joined the military. Not really well or anything, but she was a hardworking real estate agent back then, just, had her horse farm. And so again, I understand her and I feel bad for her, but that doesn't change the fact that the Republicans that are helping her are, they're MESA and they have their own agendas. And so again, I hope that Lori is the one that's in charge of that relationship. Now, MESA is helping the no Gotion individuals, but it's very clear that they're not going after MEDC. The Midwestern never talks about the MEDC and doesn't go there and record them live or anything like that. I do record on here because I know MEDC is the root of all of the problems, the wind and solar, the no Gotion, the Ford battery, all of the grassroots movements that are happening around the semiconductor plants and the mega sites. All of these individuals are real people and they're really worried. And that is why I always show IDRA, is because IDRA is a true grassroots movement. There's no Republican money behind IDRA, and there's no Democrat money behind IDRA as far as I know. And so to me, that's why I show them, and their website. It is Marjorie Steele that founded that, but it's only because she understood what I understand, and that is that the MEDC is the one that is implementing all this without the say of we the people. And so that when you know the root of the root, you go for that. So this all leads up to me. Again, at the very beginning, the Republicans have been nice to me, and so I want to put that out there. I went to the GOP couple months ago. I went to a GOP dinner, the only dinner I've ever been to, just to see what was going on. Again, I've never been political. I don't know I don't know what's going on yet. So if the Democrats invited me to any of their dinners, I would go. But Democrats don't talk to me. And that's only because unfortunately they are more establishment. And not all. They're again, the grassroots movements there this is not about Democrat or Republican. This is about anti-establishment establishment. So it's a lot of jargon and there's a lot of confusion, which leads me to the infiltration part, right? We have to be very careful because again, these websites like MLive are saying that we're being infiltrated. I'm going to bounce around today. It's a little bit different video. But I feel like it's important for you to understand what I'm seeing because I'm just a normal human being that wants my river to stay the way it is. I've been going to the hydro meetings and stuff, and the fact that they're calling us astroturfers, which means that we're only doing this for political means, it really bothers me. And something I've noticed too is the Republicans, it's all about China. So what's something I wanted to say. The establishment Republicans, most Republicans, they're not talking about the environment enough. Now, MESA is, so I will give them that. They do talk about the environment. They're suing right now about the Endangered Species Act and the endangered species that are on the Gotion website. So I will give credit, of course, where credit is due. But for the most part, everyone's talking about China, 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 and that is political. That will lead someone to think that this is all astroturfing and it's about getting votes for next year. And it's not. What it's about is that people want to keep the power or want to get it back, really. That's what it's really about. So let me see. I'm going to find this MLive article I have somewhere. There it is. Mystery group stirs up criticism of battery plants linked to China. This video is polished. Drone footage soars over Muskegon River, shoots slowly, zoom on the state capitol, and lawmakers talk directly to the camera denouncing communist China. The 7-minute, 30-second documentary from the EV Taxpayer Task Force pairs grassroots pushback against electric vehicle plants with powerful political allies. 2 billion multi-dollar battery plants, one from Gotion and another from Ford Motor Company, are singled out in the video for their ties to China and for securing state incentives. The message is clear. What China is doing here in Michigan is dangerous. On the other hand, the origin and motives of the organization aren't clear at all. The EV Taxpayer Task Force has worked hard to mask its identity. It has no named representatives or backers. The group is not listed as a registered nonprofit with the IRS, a political committee with a Federal Election Commission, or a business in Michigan or other states. It has no address or phone number. Their website offers a single clue. The URL is registered to an employee of a French company named Avisa Partners, a company that specializes in what it calls indirect digital influence activities and online campaigns. The firm has repeatedly made headlines from its work. French investigative journalists found Avisa Partners engaged in online manipulation campaigns, including systematically editing Wikipedia pages for major multinational corporations and the authoritarian leaders of countries like Chad and Kazakhstan. They reportedly have paid ghostwriters to authors column on behalf of their clients in major French publications, and later sued the publications for their characterizations of the posts. Among Avisa Partners' disclosed lobbying clients in the U.S. is Syngenta, an agricultural corporation run by Chinese state-owned company ChemChina. There really is a industry of political operatives, lobbyists, and other players who work for, in some cases, unknown forces, who are able to leverage digital ads, other digital media, and communications, said Anna Masagolia, editorial and investigations manager of the nonpartisan independent nonprofit Open Secrets, which tracks money and politics. She said it is increasingly common the group maintains unregistered entities, unlike other dark money organizations. It really gives a different appearance of the grassroots support. Whereas sometimes it's just the result of a substantially funded, very opaque operation that is run by a very small group of individuals. This is what we're fighting against. I don't want people to look at the No Gotion, to look at the Mundy Township, look at Genesee, all of these different townships that are just normal people in rural areas rising up and saying no. And now they're saying that small groups of individuals have taken over. Now, I don't know about you, but being one of the grassroots people, it's part of war, right? We're in an information war. The only faces connected to the taxpayer task force are the present and former public officials interviewed in its video. Joseph Sulla, a Republican and former U.S. ambassador, said he appeared in the video without knowing who was sponsoring the filmmakers. Pete Hoekstra, another Republican former ambassador, said the same. They reached out rather out of the blue, and then they ended up filming the documentary, Sulla said. He and Hoekstra have co-founded a separate group called the Michigan-China Economic and Security Review Group to raise concerns about Chinese investments. Now, this is what I'm talking about with the Republicans having their own agenda. It's about China. See, and that's what bothers me is that they want war with China. So if we get a Republican next year, we're going to be done with Russia war. We're going to go into China war. I don't want war. They're focused on Gotion Inc., $2.36 billion plant near Big Rapids, and Ford's licensing deal with Chinese battery maker Cattle and its proposed $3.5 billion battery campus in Marshall. The Chinese people are a victim of their government just as we are a victim of ours. And that's why anybody that says that the grassroots movements that are worried about China are xenophobic, they're gaslighting. They're not telling you the truth. Because the truth is, we the people know that the people of China have been subjugated by the CCP. And we don't want to be subjugated by the CCP because right now we're being subjugated by our own government. He and Hoekstra have co-founded. Oh, sorry, I already read that. Sulla said the EV taxpayer task force was unrelated to his and other grassroots efforts opposing the projects. State Rep Andrew Fink, an Adams Township Republican who was referred by Sulla to appear in the video, also doesn't know who the group represents, but he argued that shouldn't detract from the message. Even if there is evidence of an influential campaign, not only would my argument be the same, but there are also people in those areas who are not being astroturfed into action, Fink said. There's some very serious grassroots activity, and I want to thank Senator Andrew Fink of Adams Township for saying that, because yes, of course money is going to try to infiltrate, and in some pockets, maybe it does. But for the most part, we are not being motivated by money or Republicans. Rather, Republicans are coming in and trying to jump on the grassroots movement. So it's the other way around from what people think. Grassroots have come first, and Republicans are jumping on. Now, again, depends on the individual whether or not that's a good thing or not. A handful of Michigan lawmakers also appear in the video, including U.S. Rep. John Molinar, which, when I was at the GOP dinner, John Molinar had an assistant hold up a phone where he had a pre-recorded message to the microphone. That drove me absolutely nuts. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm like, just don't do that. Be a real person, because what you're doing right there shows me you're not a real person. You're too far in Washington. You're gone. You're not here. So don't act like you're here when you're not here. It really bothered me. I'm sorry. I did not like that. And then the fact that he made a committee, he made more power for himself using China. Again, I do want Gotion to be stopped. That's the means that they are using to stop it. But I have to point out when I see that I don't like that. I feel like the only reason potentially that they're helping is because they want more power, and it's not really because they care about us. But, what do you do? Do you say no to their help? Like, seriously, I thought about it. I'm like, what was Lori Brock supposed to do? Is she supposed to say no to their help when she needs help? And unfortunately, the grassroots people around her, we don't have money or power. And how do you fight this without money or power? But I don't think money and power is going to fight it either, unfortunately. So a handful of state reps, including John Molinar and Lana Thies. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. She talked at the Appropriations Committee, and I appreciated what she said. So, maybe she's one of the good ones. I haven't looked into her. But so far, I haven't seen her do any power grabs. State Senate John from Allen. and Molinar's office did not respond to repeated interview requests. There had also been an influence campaign from those in favor of the projects. In September, the Detroit Free Press reported local Marshall residents have been receiving political mail promoting the project from a front group staffed by a consultant with ties to Democrats and Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Yes, I did report on that before too. The government was absolutely involved in campaigns against the not the Marshall mega site and the individuals that are fighting forward in that mega site. So there's another instance where, and I think it was called Emerging Scandal, the video that I did with Gotion and Marshall being involved, because it's all tied together. I mean, Jim Chapman in Green Charter Township has the same two lawyers as Whitmer she used when she was going through the COVID stuff, and she flew down to Florida and used shady money, our money, to do it. And so she had to have a lawyer. That same lawyer is Jim Chapman's lawyer of Green Charter Township, population of 3,000 people. I mean, again, our townships have been captured, and I really hope that we can turn this around, but I don't know. That group, the Free Press reported, had been registered as a political committee and disclosed its donations, but their only contribution has been from a nonprofit that doesn't disclose its donors. It's very important for the average member of the public who's been targeted either by advertising or other media, so that the individual does not know that the messaging they're consuming may be colored by the interests of whoever is ultimately behind the group, that they're not necessarily relying on unbiased information, Masagolia said. EV Taxpayer Task Force did not respond to a message sent to their only available contact information and email address. Critics have taken aim at Gotion being a subsidiary of the Chinese company. Chuck Thelen, VP of Gotion North America. The reason that they do this, Gotion North American manufacturing, is to, again, it's a little bit of gaslighting there. It's to try to say this is separate. It's not separate. It's a Chinese company. And if you know anything about communism and how the CCP works, they have more capitalist tendencies right now because communism doesn't make money. But they still own everything at the end of the day. And there's plenty of proof if you do the research into that. Said earlier this year, they've been force-fed a fear sandwich about the publicly held company. Force-fed a big fear sandwich. You know what that says to me? We're all just stupid sheep that can't think for ourselves, and we're just being told a bunch of fear stories, and we believe them. That's what he's saying. He's so arrogant. And again, you're talking about the VP of the company. So what kind of source is that? MLive establishment, okay? From now on, I'm not going to say left or right. I'm going to say establishment or anti-establishment publication. Absolutely an establishment publication. Rhetoric around the Gotion plant is rooted in misinformation, according to University of Michigan professor Mary Gallagher, an expert in Chinese politics, law and society, and labor politics. The main concern that people have raised is the Gotion is closely tied to the CCP, and I don't think there is any evidence for that. First, then you don't think. I'm sorry, you don't think. And second, that's not the main concern that people have raised. So you're being disingenuous in many different ways. And sorry, but University of Michigan, like all of the state colleges, have been regulatory captured. It's called regulatory capture. It has been done. You cannot be accredited without the environmental standards, which tells you everything you need to know. It's been captured. So you work at the University of Michigan. You are a part of the United Nations Agenda 21 movement. You can look at it. I've done tons of videos and shown you. Scrutiny of these Chinese-linked investments in Michigan has grown stronger in recent months. Molinar and U.S. Rep. Mike Gallagher, a Wisconsin Republican, by the way, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Minnesota all are doing the same thing Michigan is, bypassing the townships to take away the power and give it to the state for renewables. Probably the same thing, because people in Minnesota, in the rural areas, people in Wisconsin and Illinois, they don't want miles and miles and miles of wind turbines and solar panels. They would rather stinky cow farts, and I'm with them. But this is why it's not just Michigan. I use Michigan as an example, but this is happening everywhere. in September, asked Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen to withhold federal support from investments linked to China. That's Gallagher and Mulinar. A Republican coalition wants the Treasury Department to take a closer look at Gotion Inc.'s investment in Michigan, and Illinois Republicans also sent forward a letter that raised concerns about cattle. Gallagher speculates politics are driving these anti-Chinese investment efforts. There's a presidential election coming up next year. China and these fears of China, which I think in this case are being blown out of proportion, seem to be very helpful in getting people mobilized, she said. Anti-China sentiment is not new. Sediment. Too many hydro dam videos I've been watching and doing research on. Which, by the way, next Monday, I have my third hydro dam war on dams video. And I found out some new information from the meeting last night. There's a million battlefronts. The United States' relationship with China and its authoritarian government, considered an economic and security threat, has long been strained, but tensions grew earlier this year over export controls, spy balloons, and TikTok. Republican presidential contenders have seized on the issue. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis passed 3 bills this year to counteract the malign influence of the Chinese Communist Party. Nikki Haley, a former South Carolina governor and United Nations ambassador, appeared in an ad 2 months ago attacking communist China. United Nations ambassador can't be trusted. And entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, who previously said he would ban Chinese investments, had a rally this month at a horse farm near the Gotion site. So there's the majestic Frisian horse farm. Politicians are turning Chinese investments into an election wedge issue, according to Gallagher. This strategy, which is a short-term strategy to win elections, is short-changing the U.S.'s ability to compete in the long term. Again, only because you are trying to compete against an already established EV battery country, China, instead of innovating and just going our own route. Why are we trying to compete with EV batteries with them? Oh, is it because the United Nations is in charge of Russia, China, and the United States and everything that's going on? Yes. Unfortunately, yes. In the past 6 years, Chinese companies have gone from being one of the top investors in the United States to a second-tier player, according to the research firm Rhodium Group. Annual Chinese investment dropped from $46 billion in 2016 to less than $5 billion in 2022. Shift comes from the United States trying to shore up domestic manufacturing of EV and batteries. Yeah, bringing them here. Meanwhile, China, a dominant player in the EV market, accounts for 75% of the... Why? Why are we going to compete when they count for 75%? It doesn't make sense unless there's a master plan that all of them are implementing. The EV taxpayer task force claims allowing China to access U.S. technology and as a Trojan horse is an unacceptable risk to national security. Gallagher says these concerns are misplaced. I don't think that there's enough consideration of the strategic needs for this technology. It's hard to say that Gotion or cattle would be stealing American intellectual property when they are actually bringing intellectual property to the U.S. that we don't currently have. Billions of dollars have been funneled into EV projects across the country since 2015. I highlighted that because 2015 is when Obama re-promised to go in on the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. 2015, that was when this 2030 push started really going on. You see 2030 everywhere, it's because of the United Nations. For Michigan, securing these investments has been a key focus in recent years. The state has put together hefty incentive packages for companies like Gotion, Ford, General Motors to help navigate Michigan's auto legacy into the future. Gallagher says alienating anything to do with China could come at a cost. Michigan is potentially at a big disadvantage if this kind of opposition is drummed up, she said, for reasons that maybe have less to do with national security and have more to do with domestic politics, maybe even some local politics. Again, MLive drives me crazy. I do have the video here. It is 7 minutes long. I will share it with you if you guys would like that. Here. Really quick, I'm going to share Mecosta County Building and Zoning Committee meeting is this Thursday. If you could show up, 10:30 to 11:30. Again, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Lansing. If you can be there, please show up to fight against the wind and solar state takeover because they're trying to shove that down our throats. And let's see, there's more dam meetings. I will talk more about that in a later video. All right. Oh, here, this one. Sorry, guys. This is important. So, no mega site petition presentation Monday, October 23rd, 7 p.m. in the Mundy Township at 3478 Mundy Avenue. So, if you're in this area next Monday, please show up and support them. They just want to have a voice, and the economic development corporations are saying, you are going to have this mega site here, whether you like it or not, and we're going to put whatever we want here, whether you like it or not. And that's what we are all fighting. We are all fighting our state government because governments around the world are at war with us. Do you guys want to watch that video? By the way, let me know in the comments and I will pull that video up. Okay. Right here. Voters oppose spending taxpayer dollars on projects connected to the CCP. Voters in Michigan are overwhelmingly opposed to the state contributing funds to 2 battery plants in Michigan that are being built by American companies in partnership with companies affiliated with the CCP by a staggering 72% to 11% margin. Michigan voters do not want their tax dollars going to these projects. So that's another thing. And I didn't bring up this video yet, is that yes, we are paying Gotion to buy our land. We are bribing them. And then we're buying the land for them and giving it to them. I mean, that's crazy. And we're broke. Like, we are $33 trillion in debt as a nation. Michigan supposedly has some funds. Again, where did that come from? World Economic Forum. Hey, I'll let you come stay here, World Economic Forum, if you just give us billions of dollars. No problem for them. As part of the Michigan poll, this MRG commissioned question was surveyed October 2nd to the 8th from 600 Michigan registered voters and has a margin of error of plus minus 4%. Voters were asked if the state of Michigan should be funding projects that have partnered with American companies affiliated or controlled by the CCP. Whether voters feel uncomfortable with companies affiliated with the CCP or they just believe there are better uses for their tax dollars. They clearly oppose the state contributing funds to these 2 battery plants, said Janelle Leonard, owner of MRG LLC. As all Michiganders are tightening their budgets and prioritizing personal spending, it seems that they want the government to do the same and protect their tax dollars from connections with the CCP. Giving hard-earned tax dollars to entities with CCP connections could be a contributing factor as to why voters have a growing concern and mistrust of government and politicians, said Tom Shield, senior advisor to MRG. Michigan voters didn't support the amount of dollars going to the Marshall plant to begin with, despite their promise of jobs. Adding information about the company ties to the CCP just increases and hardens the opposition. The poll showed overwhelming opposition to the state funding facilities with connections to CCP, as every demographic, political group, and geographical region of the state opposed. 66% of the voters in West Michigan and 90% of voters in Northern Michigan opposed to project funding, even though the 2 battery plants are located in their areas. Yes. We, the people, don't want it. Our government is forcing it on us. We can say it in a million different ways, and we should say it in a million different ways, because every new way will click for somebody. Like, it will be that thing that resonates. And that's another reason why I get so many different articles, and some of them kind of say very similar things, is that there's a spell on people, and you never know what piece of information will connect and trigger the spell to be broken so that they can see the illusion that's in front of them. Now, part of the epiphany that I had was involved. This was involved. Let me put myself up here. This is The Taking by David Rogers Webb. And this is free. This is a book I've mentioned a couple times. It is free on the great taking.com, but I bought a copy because I like physical copies. I don't trust online world not to be manipulated or changed. I saw a live stream really quick. I saw a live stream of Tesla, Elon Musk's rocket ship. The live stream was manipulated. They changed the live stream, and it didn't say that it was changed or edited. They have the power to do that, so I do not trust it if it's just online. This is a physical copy. You can't manipulate. It is in the real world. That is why I like having a physical copy. So I spent $15 with the shipping, and I bought this baby, and I'm so glad I did. This is a horror. This is a nonfiction horror book, and this helped me understand, unfortunately, I don't think there's a way. No, there is no way to stop this big plan that they have coming for next year. But we can put up defenses in order to mitigate. We have to mitigate the risk. That's where we're at with that. Again, keep fighting the MEDC, keep doing the grassroots movements, because while you're doing that, you are getting to know your neighbor, you're getting to know your fellow Michigander, and you're putting aside all of those differences that they put in your head, that the television programming put in your head, okay? It is not Democrat versus Republican. It's not black versus white. It's not left versus right. It's not male versus female. It is none of those things. This is really the establishment trying to subjugate the people. And this book reiterates that very clearly, but using the macroeconomic, the banks. This is talking about the central banks. And they are the ultimate source, unfortunately, like the top of the pyramid that I can see. Now, there are people that you don't see, and those are the real power. The real power you don't know, you don't see. But this book, definitely worth a read. Again, it's free. And it gave me the epiphany that we need the only solution is our neighbor, is to get to know them, to figure out strengths and weaknesses. And the only thing they can't take away from you is education. So learn a skill. These are the solutions, and they sound like desperate solutions because they are, okay? Learn a skill like sewing or knitting or cooking or gardening, backyard homesteading type thing, chickens, goats if you have the room, cows if you have the room for that, which I don't, unfortunately. You rock. Lansing area here. Thinker for life. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. So many people just won't even listen, and it's unfortunate. It breaks my heart because I really just want to help people. What I try to tell my brother is that it's like I see a gunman coming down the road, and he's saying, "I'm gonna kill everybody in this area," and I see this person, and I'm like, "Hey, I got time to run back and tell everybody that this is happening. I'm not the one that's running down the street with a gun. I'm not the one that wants to kill everybody. I saw him, I hear him. I'm like, holy crap. I need to warn my neighbors." And my neighbors are like, "You're crazy. I don't see it happening. I just want to live my life and have fun. I just want to live right now. I don't want to worry about those things." And it drives me crazy because we wouldn't have to worry about it. If we would just pay attention to that, we could quickly take care of that threat, and then we could go back to living and having a good time. But I can't, as long as there's a threat coming towards my neighbors and myself, I can't just have a good time. And so I appreciate you. That's a long-winded way to say that. I appreciate you for actually being willing to listen, because I really just want to help people, and I love you guys. So let's get this back up. Giving hard-earned taxpayer dollars to entities with CCP connections could be a contributing factor as to why voters have a growing concern and mistrust. I already read that. I'm sorry. The poll showed overwhelming opposition to state funding. The survey, okay, yeah, I am not going to get into all of that. So I signed up for the Telegraph, and then it blocked me anyway. And I didn't pay. I just was supposed to get one free newsletter, but they blocked me. So unfortunately, I can't show it. But China and Russia are using the UN to censor the world. I want to do a video really soon on this, because people think that China or Russia could be our enemy, but they're both implementing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And I have proof, I have receipts that I want to show you. It's just going to take a whole video. Once again, every topic I search at least 10 hours, and I try to condense it for you. And that's why it always ends up to be 2-hour videos. And I know that they're long, but this is research. It's not entertainment, it's education. Cyber Polygon. So along with this book and this cyber pandemic simulation by the World Economic Forum, I think the patterns are showing that next year for the election, we might not have an election. I've been saying that we are going to, that this will be the last one. But I had this epiphany that the perfect time to do this cyber attack would be October, November, December, January, February, March. Why would it be perfect? It would be perfect for individuals like the eugenicists that started the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. They are eugenicists. They believe the world's overpopulated, and therefore it's logical to come up with a depopulation agenda in order to save their own asses. And so this cyber pandemic simulation by the World Economic Forum is showing us that they several different articles, cyber apocalypse 2023, no, next year, when the elections are supposed to happen, what if they turned off the power? And here's another thing I thought, the Great Reset. When you have a computer and you have new software that you download, you have to do a restart. You have to shut your computer off and then bring it back online in order to have the new information in there. It's the same thing with central bank digital currencies, with the digital ID, with the Industry 4.0 technology, all of that. That is something that I didn't understand because I'm like, they want us in the metaverse. Why would they turn the power off? Why would they have a cyber attack? Why would they disconnect us when they want us connected? And then I had this epiphany, of course, and maybe it's obvious. Maybe you guys have known this. I don't know why it took me so long to figure it out. But of course, you're going to have a period of time. You have to shut the computer down for a period of time and then reboot it with the new software. And so they could choose to shut it down for 6 months, and that would completely decimate America. Americans are fat and complacent. It's just the way it is. We have no idea about hardship. And I'm included in that. I have been to other countries, so I have an inkling. I read a lot of books, so I have an inkling of different perspectives. But Americans in general, I mean, my mom says all the time, that'll never happen. When I say something like a complete collapse of the banking system, that'll never happen. There was a lot of problems in the 70s and everything's fine. And I love my mom. She doesn't, she's in the matrix, okay? But I love her. She loves me. Everything's fine there. I'm just simply saying that I know somebody in my life that just cannot comprehend that this is possible. That this is America. Nothing bad like that will happen. And I am telling you right now, unfortunately, I think it will. I think next year we will have a period of time where we will not have any electricity. And so I'm going to go over this. As the 2023 annual meeting for the World Economic Forum wrapped up in Davos, Switzerland, it ended with a disturbing prediction from one of the leading voices. This came out February 6th of this year. Delivering a presentation of the 2023 Global Cybersecurity Outlook Report from Managing Director Jeremy Jurgens revealed that 93% of those surveyed believe that a catastrophic cybersecurity event is likely in the next 2 years. By 2025, I want you to remember that, 2025, it's expected that cybercrime will cost the world economy around $10.5 trillion annually, increasing from $3 trillion in 2015. Again, 2015. To put that in context, if it were a country, then cybercrime would have the third largest GDP behind the US and China. Key drivers of the growth are ongoing digitization of society. Who is pushing that? Who wants everything to be inventoried and controlled? How do you think the United Nations is going to inventory and control everything? It's through the digitization of society, which is why the EV batteries are being forced upon us. Behavioral changes. Yeah, you better change. Brainwashing there. You better change your mind about EVs. Behavioral changes due to global COVID-19 pandemic, political instability such as the war in Ukraine, and the global economic downturn. According to the World Economic Forum, of particular concern is that the nature of cybercrime is becoming increasingly unpredictable. This is due to technology becoming more complex, in particular, breakthrough technologies such as artificial intelligence. This means that we are increasingly at risk of what has been termed a catastrophic cyber attack, one that will sever an ongoing ramifications for society at large. One that will have severe, not sever, severe and ongoing ramifications. What are the critical cybersecurity threats? According to the World Economic Forum, one of the biggest threats is a mutating threat. They call it a cyber pandemic. A mutating threat. Does that not sound just like a freaking germ, a virus? These guys, they're so evil. This could take the form of an AI-enabled virus that transforms as it infects various systems and organizations to evade defense systems or even detection. I mean, they're telling you what they're going to do. Prime Minister of Albania, whose country suffered an attack that brought down critical infrastructure in 2022, spoke about what he had learned since. It's about viruses that can not only block our way of living, but can control it and deviate it. Yeah, and we're going to have electric cars, which is a software-based system. That's what they're bringing us to, where everything's software, so that you have to pay monthly for it. Cindy says, it's a very scary time. Thank you. I've been talking chickens for some time. Yes, get the backyard chickens. We have to be self-sustaining. Again, we have to learn a skill, and we have to be ready for a period of no electricity. One of these articles I have to share with you is going to tell us some things about what happens with no electricity. It's about viruses, so it can use our system like, God forbid, our air transport system to hit us back. Imagine if there's a cyber attack on an air transport systems that turn a huge number of airplanes that are flying into bombs. Jeez. I didn't want to visualize that, but yeah. Think about all the planes and they just start dive bombing onto people, killing everybody in the plane and killing us on the ground. And that's a nightmare scenario. I hope that never comes to be, but the fact that they're even mentioning that, what we learned is that this is something that's absolutely naive to think that any country can tackle this on its own. That's telling you something. No country can tackle this on its own. We need a United Nations. We need one government to control all of this. We need one religion, which is going to be the singularity, transhumanism, where man is God. That's the new religion that these people, science. And then the central bank digital currency. Again, you will own nothing and be happy because of the central banks. They are going to turn the system off, and you and I, we're going to be so desperate. This is what they want. So desperate to get back online that we will accept a digital ID, that we will accept the connection of all things, that we will beg for our own enslavement rather than have the chaos that they have caused. They are causing this chaos on purpose. Problem, reaction, solution. Another example given of a truly devastating cyber attack was an attempt by Russian-linked groups to hack infrastructure in Ukraine following the 2014 invasion of Crimea, which left 230,000 homes without power. In the run-up to the 2022 invasion, 288,000 attempted cyber attacks were detected against Ukrainian businesses and government infrastructure. At the same time, however, it's likely that much of the forecasted 10 million in economic damage will be caused by smaller attacks simply aimed at stealing or extorting money from businesses or individuals. During the World Economic Forum presentation, Interpol Secretary General Jürgen Stock spoke about a 2022 operation by his organization against the West African cybercrime group Black Axe that recently led to the arrest of 70 individuals. Wow, a West African cybercrime group. Groups like it are made up of professional hackers, fraudsters, scammers, and money launderers who have become increasingly proficient at credit card fraud, extortion, identity theft, and ransomware attacks. Any good hacker, our government has detected them and has recruited them. I promise you that. Any good hacker has been recruited by our own government. Think for life. We should be using our free speech and demonstrating in public, not just online. I was thinking we should do a freeway overpass demonstration. If the overpass has a walkway, that's what it is. Sorry, walkway. We can legally do it. Yeah, that's a great idea. You're right. We do need to get offline because we're not going to have online forever, for one. And there are a lot of people that don't find these videos, that don't know what they're looking for. So you're absolutely right. In real life, there are a lot of different rallies and stuff happening that are grassroots, but we need more. We do. We need strength in numbers, and we need more muckrakers, more people that are gonna, find the information, record what these public officials are doing. Start holding them accountable. They do not like it when you look at them. Oh, sorry. Someone's here. You know what? I know exactly who it is. I'll be right back. It's flowers for my mother-in-law. She's 89 today. You can just leave them right there. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. She is gonna love those flowers. They're beautiful. She's taking a nap right now. So, one of the most common threats, which probably everyone reading this has been a target of, is phishing attempts. Typically, those involve sending out emails that attempt to dupe unwary recipients into disclosing personal details. You know, as savvy as I am, I was duped. I thought I was selling my phone, and a Nigerian got me. I ended up sending my phone wiped and everything, but still, it was like I could have got $350, $400 out of it. So I got, and so it happens. My mom, she doesn't understand that pretty much everything's a scam, but the details are then used either to steal from the victim or to commit identity theft, perhaps to apply for loans or credits in the victim's name. Okay. So it talks about phishing attacks. I'm going to go to this one. I should have just played this while I was gone. I'm sorry.
The COVID-19 pandemic has shaken our economies and societies to the core and shown us how vulnerable we are to biological threats. In the digital world, similar risks are being overlooked right now. A cyber attack with COVID-like characteristics would spread faster and further than any biological virus. Its reproductive rate would be around 10 times greater than what we've experienced with the coronavirus. To give you an idea, one of the fastest worms in history, the 2003 Slammer sapphire worm, doubled in size approximately every 8.5 seconds, infecting over 75,000 devices in 10 minutes and almost 11 million devices in 24 hours. Fortunately, at least until now, cyber attacks have not impacted our health the way pandemics have, but the economic damages, and therefore the impact they have had on our daily lives, have been equal and sometimes even greater. You see, the only way to stop the exponential propagation of a COVID-like cyber threat is to fully disconnect the millions of vulnerable devices from one another and from the internet. All of this in a matter of days. A single day without the internet would cost our economies more than $50 billion US, and that's before considering the economic and societal damages should these devices be linked to essential services such as transport or healthcare. As the digital realm increasingly merges with our physical world, the ripple effects of cyber attacks on our safety just keep on expanding at a faster pace than what we're preparing for. COVID-19 was known as an anticipated risk. So is the digital equivalent. Let's be better prepared for that one. The time is now.
Yeah, so the World Economic Forum is showing you this is the cyber Polygon, the international capacity building initiative aimed at raising global cyber resilience. This was the exercise that they did, and they are preparing for a period of time where we will not have internet and what that will look like. Prepping for a cyber pandemic worldwide drill underway. Come down here and it says the World Economic Forum kicked off its annual Cyber Polygon exercise Friday, which gives companies and governments the opportunity to participate in the simulation of the cyber pandemic. It is inevitable that some larger attack is going to occur one day. It's inevitable. They're telling you it's going to happen. And again, it has to happen in order to reset the computer. And we will, in their minds, we will be desperate enough. But see, that's where the counter is mitigation, risk mitigation. The counter is to form a squad in your community to help each other out when the power goes down to survive. Because that evil kills itself, right? Voldemort kills himself at the end of Harry Potter. Harry Potter is just trying to block it and stop him at every step. But he doesn't have the powers that Voldemort has. And the reason why that story is so prevalent in millennial society is because it is the hero's journey that was told at a crucial time for millennials, when we were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is when those books came out. And so if you look at Generational Theory by Neil Howe, the millennials, there's called the fourth turning, and there is a crisis period. And different generations have different roles when there's a crisis period. And the millennials in this crisis period are the hero. And that's his word that he uses. I'm not trying to say I'm the hero or anything like that. It's that the generation, and again, this is all science that he's done, talking about different generations. He's seen a pattern. He's seen a cycle that every 80 years there is a crisis. But this one is different because it is the whole world, and it is all of the governments trying to subjugate all of the people. It is the last battle of the video game. It is the last battle of the Marvel movies. They have all these little battles until the final one to kind of level up to get ready for that final one. We've had all these little battles, and now we're about to reach the final one. And of this story, there, of course, cycles. There will be a new story, and that's how it is. So Harry Potter is in our hearts, and it has shown us that yes, evil will kill itself. All of these systems are collapsing, and they will collapse, but we have to weather the storm. That is our goal. We don't have to help destroy it. It will destroy itself. The snake eats its own tail. But we have to survive while it's happening, and that is going to be the difficulty. Because while everything is crumbling, it's going to be insane. It's going to be chaos. And I don't like that. I don't want it to be that way, but that is the patterns that I'm seeing, and I'm going to tell you what I see. We are very interested to hear Marjorie Steele, name it and claim it. Girl, thank you, Marjorie. Thanks for hanging out. Yes, I am going to name it because we are at the end game. So in 2021, 200 teams from 48 countries are participating in the worldwide training exercise. Companies like IBM, who was involved in the Holocaust, Santander, I don't know, and Ernst and Young are on the list. I should probably know who these are. I've seen the names, but I can't place them right now. The focus of the live drill this year is a targeted supply chain attack on a corporation. If a scenario like this happened in real life, it could impact our daily lives by shutting down water treatment facilities, the power grid, or the internet. What would you do if you can't access your bank accounts, the internet, or your cell phone suddenly stopped working? These are the kinds of things people really do need to think through, because one day we may be facing a crisis like that. We are faced with the possibility and probability of cyber attacks every day. Finkenbinder is the Chief Information Officer and Director of Operations of Centric Bank, which has several branches in central and eastern Pennsylvania. Banksters, man, don't trust them at all. They're worse than politicians. They own the politicians. And that's, again, another thing this book says very clearly. Politicians, media, government, military, all owned by the banks. Over the course of a quarter, it's in excess of 1 million cyber attack attempts. Russia is number 1, followed by the Netherlands, and then it goes down the scale. By far, Russia surpasses all the others combined. This was a silent war going on to keep the bad guys at bay and keep all the information safe, Finkenbinder said. The Cyber Polygon event goes on for several days. Experts will also hold discussions on cyber currency and ransomware. Experts say ransomware leads to most cyber attacks, which is why they warn us not to click on suspicious links. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to share with you, Premonition 2024. So there was a Deagle report that came out. Deagle has self-identified as a guide to military aviation advanced technologies. Since 2014, it publishes Forecast 2025, which notoriously predicts a Western collapse. Under cover of a long-planned political event vigorously promoted by the WHO, governments, and media as a coronavirus pandemic, Western governments presently engage in a systemic campaign to destroy citizens' lives, liberty, and property. The formally implausible forecast 2025 now warrants serious attention. So Deagle is a military forecasting company, organization. I'm not really sure exactly, but the military is involved, and it takes a bunch of data and analyzes it. And this forecast, unfortunately, is saying some scary things. I saw this for the first time all the way back in 2014. I couldn't believe it. So again, I'm not showing this to make you afraid, because fear is a mind killer. Do not be afraid. Love your neighbor and do the best you can. We're all going to die someday, but we can change the fate of the Shire. We can, that's all that we have control over. Again, that's why I keep talking about your neighbors, because we can save the Shire even if everything else collapses, if we are aware that the Shire is in danger. This says the United States of America will be going down in population. If you look here, it says previously 326 million people, down 70% to 99 million. This forecast is predicting that by 2025, we will lose 70% of Americans. Now, I don't want to believe this. Maybe this is a psyop, because that absolutely can take place. They can plant information in your head. Like, you know, they can put out information that they want you to believe. That is possible. But we have to look at this because it is a military analysis organization, and they are claiming that we are going to go down 70%. Now, you could say that maybe something to do with the jab. Still, I don't think that narrative is played out, but I don't think that's what's going to be. If we lost electricity for a month, the devastation would be unreal. I mean, just a month. I can't even explain to you. And so I'm going to just say it. Yes, we need to prepare for a period of 6 months, let's say, of no electricity. And so figure out who your neighbors are and make a plan. Squad up, because we can't stop this. These guys are freaking planning this. Could we survive a long-term power outage? It's not just the lights that go out. When people think of power going out, the first thing that usually comes to mind: TV, lights, computer, and internet. A typical response might be, I can just read a book or play a board game. It's not a big deal. If you're experiencing a power outage right now, skip to the bottom of this article. Well, I'm going to skip to it anyway. The truth is, we are relying on electricity much more than we realize. Even if you live off the grid, as I did for years, you are still living in a world and a society that is deeply dependent upon electricity. It's likely that most people have experienced life without electricity for a few hours. Maybe you were a little bored and inconvenienced, but what if an outage was lengthy and widespread? The consequences would be much more severe, even deadly. What would happen if the electricity was out for a week? Last winter, we had a little taste of what widespread power outages be here in my little foothill town. We had unusually heavy snowfall. Okay, since we are on a well with an electric pump, if the power is out, the water is out. People who live in town and are on city water didn't have that problem, but many municipal water systems are automated. If the power is out long enough, even the city folks will run out of water. Many homes are all electric, so as soon as the lights are out, they have no heat, no hot water, and they can't cook. Some well-prepared people who live in areas where there are frequent power outages have generators. However, most generators run on diesel fuel or gasoline. If the power is out, gas stations can't pump gas. Once generators run out of gas, those people will be in the dark too. Zoltan the Man, hello from West Michigan. Thank you for speaking up for us Michiganders. Thank you for listening. I can't thank you guys enough. I really am doing this because I know that there are people like you out there that want to know the truth of what's going on, and the media certainly isn't going to tell you. The establishment media will not tell you what's going on, but the powers that be do. On their websites and stuff, they tell you what they're going to do, but we have to look for ourselves. So again, thank you guys for being willing to even look at the information, because you don't have to agree with everything I say. In fact, I claim I love diversity of ideas. That's where true diversity should be. because you can kill ideas and replace them. You should not be married to them. You should make sure that the highest idea is at the top of your pyramid, right? So I'm for diversity of ideas. Don't always just agree with me. That's cool. I love that. I love you guys. And just, if you find this information valuable, please share it, because the AI goes through all the videos now on YouTube. And if you say things like climate change or whatever, there's keywords that you say, that I say, that basically they're not going to promote my video. So the only way people will see it is if you share it. So please, if you know anybody that's willing to at least look at the information, share it with them. Some well-prepared people who live in areas where there are frequent power outages. Oh, yes, I already said that. If you have a battery-operated radio, you might be able to get some news for a while, but if the grid goes down, you probably won't be able to get a station. If you have a landline phone, it might work, but your cordless won't. Yes, refrigeration, bad enough when all the food in the refrigerator and freezer is spoiled, but what about this happens at the local Safeway? The store has probably been closed the whole time anyway because their scanners don't work. Even if you could find an open store, if you don't have cash, what are you going to do for money? ATM machines won't be working. Maybe they'll take a check, which is why when I see this war on cash that's taking place, it's like we are putting so much reliance on literally centralized power called electricity. It's like, does anybody see that's not a good thing. That's a very scary thing, because now all you have to do is crash that one thing, destroy the electricity, and you destroy a whole country. You know, I'm going to leave that Deagle report down below too, because Germany is another one. 63% population decrease, which again, depopulation agenda. If you believe that the world is overpopulated and there's a finite amount of resources, you can justify anything in your own mind. And so these individuals want these things for themselves. They would have no problems with resetting the world and scaring everybody into their agenda. Cities run on electricity. Modern high-rise depend on electricity to keep them habitable. Many don't even have windows that open, so without mechanical ventilation and air conditioning, they will soon become unbearable. Then there is a classic situation of people stuck in elevators. Another problem in large city is looting. It is almost inevitable in these situations. A lengthy power outage can have a huge economic impact too. It is impossible for modern commerce to continue without their computers and phones. Nuclear power plants need electricity for cooling. I didn't even think about this one until this article. Cooling is a very important part of producing nuclear power. Spent rods need to be kept cool and contained. If they overheat, they can cause explosions and fires. If the core is allowed to overheat, it could cause a nuclear meltdown. If the containment structure of the plant is damaged, radiation will leak out into the environment. In the event of a power outage, nuclear plants automatically shut down and the backup generators kick on. If the U.S. nuclear power plants are required by federal law to have redundant safety systems. The generators require fuel. If supplies run short, they will have to be trucked in to keep the cooling system going. So, water treatment plants need electricity. Practical tips, keep food cold. Well, yeah, but how? It's another thing. It's like, my neighbor talks about these huge cubes that you'd keep, and that's what the Amish do. So how does that work? How do you keep an ice cube cool all summer? I would really like to know. Maybe I should go ask some Amish. That's another thing. Here in the Midwestern areas, there are a lot of Amish and Mennonites, and so, maybe hopefully they will help us. Like, if anything were to happen, they know how to live without electricity. Keep things clean. We have propane. Marjorie, fear is the mind killer. Yes, and I got that from Dune. An excellent book, an excellent movie. I thought the newest one was good. The other two kind of cringy. But it's hard to do. Dune is the best sci-fi classic that you can read, in my opinion. So, and they're absolutely right. We need to be aware that this is more than a possibility. It's a probability. They're telling us with the cyber Polygon exercise. Just like, again, Event 201, if you look into that, that was a pandemic exercise that happened in 2019. Bill Gates and John Hopkins, all of these individuals were involved. So if they're doing exercises on the cyber attack, it's because they're preparing to do a cyber attack on us, a cyber pandemic. And the perfect time would be during the elections, and the perfect time would be during the cold, because that would cause the most damage. And these people are evil. And so we have to think, unfortunately, again, prepare for the worst and hope, pray for the best. So candles, let's see, it shows really quick. Flashlights, good supply of fresh batteries, candles, lighters or matches. I read an article about a survivor from the Bosnian War, I believe. The government was telling them on the radio one day that everything's fine. And the next day, civil war broke out and they couldn't leave the city. And one of the things they said was Bic lighters was one of the most tradable items, and you can grab a bunch of those and you can trade them. Lighters, of course, and matches would be very valuable, especially in the city, everywhere. But in the city, you have to be very careful about where you move. There's a lot more people, and people are unpredictable in those times. They're unpredictable all the time right now. But if you know your neighbors, then they're not unpredictable. Propane or kerosene lanterns with fuel, fuel for your generator, old-fashioned phone that plugs into the wall. I don't have that. I would like to get a ham radio, but you need plenty of batteries, right? Car charger for your cell phones and mobile devices. Maybe a solar charger. Water, I keep at least 25 gallons. I use the Berkey water filter. I've heard recently some bad things. So there's nothing else I can do. I have to trust it. So allegedly I could put river water in my Berkey and drink it. I don't know. Everybody has to figure out the water situation depending on their location, of course. But water is going to be a huge deal for the next, all the way to 2030, not just water in your house, but water rights. Think for life. We can start building our survival network off of YouTube. Yes, exactly. You don't have to tell everybody everything. I completely agree with you. Wherever you live, you're in Lansing, get to know your neighbors. My nephew's in Grand Rapids, and I told him, make sure you know your neighbors so that you guys can help each other out. You don't want to have your next door neighbor be an unknown variable when shit hits the fan. Battery powered radio, canned and dry food, enough for several weeks, several months. I think we should be prepared for 3 months at least. And then that goes through past outages and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go through real quick. I want to share this, the Fair State Torch. Now, this is going back to Vivek Ramaswamy's rally that happened at the Majestic Frisian Horse Farm. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy spoke against the upcoming Gotion factory at the Majestic Frisian Horse Farm north of campus. Independence from Communist China is high on Ramaswamy's list of policy commitments. Seated in lawn chairs, Thursday's audience responded well to his calls for American exceptionalism. Many gasped as the politician read a CCP pledge that employees allegedly recite within Gotion North America's parent company, Gotion Inc. Parent company. That tells you everything you know. Who is the parent? Gotion Inc. of the CCP. Now, a company that recites that bastardized pledge of allegiance I read you is getting ready to build a taxpayer-subsidized battery plant across the street, right over there, Ramaswamy said. That's why we're not going to let it happen. The reality is you got to know how deep this cancer runs. You know what, though? He never talks about the United Nations. You let me know if you ever hear Vivek Ramaswamy talk about the United Nations, and I will share that, because that is one of the key things for me. If you don't talk about the MEDC here in Michigan, if you're not talking about Eagle and them being captured, regulatory capture, then you're not getting to the root of the root. And I don't know why. That's like the Midwesterner. Why don't you go to the MEDC? And then, shoot. I forgot where I was going with that. I started thinking about the MEDC and I lost it. I am sorry for that. It happens every now and again. Nearly one after the factory's initial announcement, the project and its surrounding rhetoric have drawn in student advocates. Now, whenever I hear student advocates, with the colleges, state colleges like Ferris State University, tons of money has gone to Ferris State University because of this Gotion thing. Dr. Bill Pink, the president of Gotion, the president of Ferris State University, I have done all my research on this and I have several videos. He is in the MEDC and he's part of the Right Place, the VP of the Right Place, I believe. So he's got a lot of power in a lot of different places. So when I see student advocates, I think, unfortunately, young, idealistic, and brainwashed, and I don't mean them any harm. I love them. I was there once too. But they don't understand yet. I didn't understand yet until 3 years into the military that I was brainwashed. At 20, it took me until, what, 24? No, 3 years in, I was 22. Yeah. It took me some time to realize how brainwashed I was and how it happened. And so I forgive these people, but they are. So when you see student advocates, a lot of them are communists too, and they will claim outright that they're communist because they do not understand what they're saying. If you read the Gulag Archipelago, if you read any kind of Russian nonfiction from Solzhenitsyn or others, then you will know that communism has killed millions of people. And why? Centralized power, man. It's easily corrupted, and power in general, again, is like crack, right? So you have to be careful. Education sophomore Graham Wolinski attended the event in opposition to Ramaswamy's policies. He reports being instructed to stay 100 feet from the stage after satirically shouting, "Way to go, communism," while Ramaswamy quoted the CCP. Wolinski's accused Ramaswamy of having the same violence as former Donald Trump. He also believes that even if the location of the Gotion project is problematic, the factory is necessary for both the town and the state. It's like, wait. He has the same violence as former President Donald Trump? What does that even mean? Why would you put that in this article and not explain what the hell that means? He also believes, again, that even if the location of the Gotion project is problematic, the factory is necessary. Why is it necessary for the town and state if it's problematic? We need the jobs, Wolinski said, with Michigan being an automotive state and Gotion making batteries. General Motors trying to switch to fully electric cars by 2035. We're going to need a battery plant. This will make a lot of money into Big Rapids. Computer information technology senior Sam Skeen found himself particularly concerned with xenophobic and racist attacks against Chinese businesses. Again, not surprising that we're hearing that from some kind of college crap, but there's no xenophobia here. The people in this grassroots movement understand that the people in China are subjugated by their government. Their government is corrupt. Same in Russia, same in Ukraine, same in Germany, same in the UK, same everywhere around the world. Our governments are freaking corrupt, and they're not doing what we the people want. And so I have nothing against the Chinese people. I have nothing against the Russians. I don't want war with any of them. The governments want war. Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, their stocks are soaring after that attack that happened last week. It's so predictable. These are the people that want it. It's not the human beings that die and get displaced and have, all these terrible, their sons and their daughters go and fight and die. And for what? For a bankster war. Skeen co-founded the FSU Students Coalition for Jobs in support of the employment opportunities Gotion plans to bring to Big Rapids. In the last decade or so, we've lost a little bit over 2,000 jobs in the area. Now people are commuting to Grand Rapids and stuff like that to get jobs. This is going to bring 2,300 high-paying jobs to the area. It sounds like a parrot. There's no nuance here. He doesn't understand the situation at all. There's 2,300 jobs coming to the area. Do some research. There's no 2,300 jobs. And even if there was, the bottom line is we should have a say. This is where we live. It shouldn't be someone in Lansing. It shouldn't be someone in Brussels. It shouldn't be someone anywhere else in the world that's telling us what we should have in our backyard. We should decide what's in our backyard. And I'm not in that township, but it's on my river. The river is the second largest river in Michigan. So we should have a damn say. And that's all we've been saying this entire time. And the fact that we don't is telling that the government doesn't give a crap about what we have to say. It has its own plan, and that plan is being implemented everywhere, whether or not the township supervisor knows it. He is implementing, or she is implementing, the plan. And it's called United Nations Agenda 21. The United Nations is the root of the root. The World Economic Forum tagged on to help the United Nations, but ultimately the United Nations wants to be the government of the world. And they don't want private property. They don't want you to have private property, rather. You will own nothing and be happy. The college Republicans attended with concerns for Gotion's environmental impact. People say we need to get rid of all the general emissions cars. We need to build EVs. Then when it comes to this beautiful landscape we have here, oh, no, it's fine. We'll just put a giant battery plant that's going to end up poisoning everything around here. Lotzenheiser said. His comment echoed Ramaswamy's disregard for environmental concerns surrounding fossil fuels, consistently calling the climate agenda a hoax. Again, if you look at the Ferris State, you can't be accredited without knowing for a fact that humans are causing climate change and we're destroying ourselves. Okay? So, and of course, that's a lie. It's green tyranny. The event was held on farmland 6 miles away from Ferris's campus. MLive reports that 260 of the acres of land purchased for the factory are industrial. The remaining 10 acres were zoned industrial for 20 years before shifting to agricultural land. The Gotion project would see that land rezoned for industrial use, which is why this Thursday, if you can make the Mecosta County planning meeting, you should. I don't know if this is on the agenda. I should look, but either way, you should go and know that they need to rezone. And they're going to try to make a master plan. They're going to try to do everything they can to get this project going. But again, the bottom line is no one asked us. The New Mecosta Environmental and Security Alliance organized Thursday's event. And so, to me, they're the ones that put the ban list up. So, and I don't like that. I'm going to call it out. I don't appreciate that people of the community were banned, and they're not violent individuals. It's just you were afraid of what they might say. Well, what kind of free speech advocate is that? After sending a notice of intent to sue Gotion Inc. over concerns regarding the Endangered Species Act. We have in the letter brought an Endangered Species Act claim, technically called a Section 9 claim, which allows citizen suits against the government or private parties for anyone who, quote, takes an endangered species. MESA's attorney Robbie Dube said in Wood TV, taking an endangered species can include killing them, harming them, disturbing them, messing with their habitat or their food sources. MESA is formed in response to the Gotion project. According to the website, MESA opposes any attempt to bring a business into our community that threatens harm to our environment or has ties to foreign governments who threaten harm to America. University President Bill Pink spoke on how to properly navigate the informational landscape of the project as it has become a local hot-button issue. Right, and we're supposed to trust MEDC Dr. Bill Pink. This boils down to who do you listen to? Pink said, the conversations that I've had with and have heard from Gotion, they have a strong focus on making sure that their carbon footprint and environmental footprint is paid close attention to. If you don't believe them, then you're not going to go for that. If you believe them, you are at ease. Right. Again, the fact that they're saying their carbon footprint, and that's what this is all about, right? Who cares that you're demolishing wetlands to put in a building with a bunch of chemicals in it? Because that's the reality of what's happening. You're destroying the green stuff called wetlands to put a huge battery plant there. And we have 26,000 contaminated sites across Michigan. 26,000. And we're going to add another one on the second largest river in Michigan. But we care about the carbon footprint. That's what really matters. It's not really about saving the wetlands. Pink is saddened by the division sown in the Big Rapids community by the Gotion project, with Ferris as a financial partner in the project. He sees it as no different than any other company that the university has worked with. Well, how do you not understand, whoever wrote this, that's a conflict of interest and that you talking to Bill Pink doesn't mean shit? We will do our due levels of diligence to ensure that we're doing all we can with any type of threat. Pink said. That, I feel, is indicative of what we do here at Ferris State. We'll continue to do all we can to protect that. But quite frankly, from a national security perspective, I'm not so sure I'm in full agreement that it is of a heightened concern. Yeah, citing Ferris's awesome automotive program, Pink sees the Gotion project as one way for future students and alumni to find decent paying jobs without leaving the area after graduation. Nobody's going to want those jobs. And I heard, I need to do more research into it, but I heard that the automotive program, the people, the professors maybe in charge of that program are not very happy because probably not getting any money, because with EVs coming in, it's a software-based system. You don't need your mechanics. And so the whole education system around vehicles has to change as well, right? And so if you are part of the old guard, you're not going to like it, and I don't blame you. I have one more thing I have to share, and then I have to get mom out for lunch. And again, it's her birthday, so 89. I hope I make it there, but I don't know. This was environmental activist, former Grand Rapids Mayor Hartwell to speak at Ferris September 24th. Now, this was in 2019. But I wanted to bring this up for a few reasons. I'm going to bring it up tomorrow too, actually. But a former 3-term City of Grand Rapids mayor with decades of advocacy for environmental and social causes visits Ferris State University on Tuesday, September 24th. George Hartwell will speak on the topic of climate change at 11 a.m. George is a board member for the Muskegon River Watershed Assembly, which is captured. And my wife, Nancy, and I have a warm and friendly acquaintance. He said, since English 250 is about helping students master the gathering and presentation of research materials, I have students in my class direct their learning towards climate change. When I told Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Paul Blake, about my plans, he suggested that I discuss George's visit with College of Arts, Science and Education Dean Christy Hake. I am glad that the agreement was an important issue. Okay, Hartwell, a resident of Newaygo, serves as chair of the Assembly's Governance Committee. The MRWA has had its office at Ferris Big Rapids campus for years. During this tenure as Grand Rapids mayor, the United Nations, United States Chamber of Commerce, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors all gave recognition to the efforts towards sustainability championed by Hartwell's leadership and administration. Burmeister said that Hartwell will speak on his participation in the 2015 United Nations Framework Conference on Climate Change in Paris, where he served as the UN's representative for American mayors. And that is why tomorrow I am going to be discussing Grand Rapids, Michigan as a 15-minute city. And I am going to show you how you can find it no matter where you are if your city has been selected to be a 15-minute city, what the jargon is, because they're not going to come out and just say this is a 15-minute city. They do reference here and there 15-minute walkability, but for the most part, they don't come out and say it. But I'm going to show you exactly how you can find it and what it looks like under the jargon, because they want to confuse us. They put their plan out there, but they don't want us to actually get to the root of the root. And I'm obsessed with finding the root of the root and sharing it with you and how you can find it too, so that you can start your own grassroots movement in your area to fight the establishment, because they want to depopulate the world. And unfortunately, you and I are probably the bottom of the barrel sheep, if you want to call the herd to make it easier to corral everybody to do what you want. It's a lot easier to tag with a digital ID 1 billion people rather than 8 billion people. And it's so awful for me to say, and I don't want that to happen. I love humanity. I'm a pro-human being. I think that we are beautiful and we can do good by this plane of existence, and that human beings ultimately have a choice between good and evil, and that we can follow the highest path, which might be Jesus's path, where we can be the best human being that we can be and choose good. And so I am against the people that are going to war with us. A war on carbon is a war on life, and I'm for life. So please join me tomorrow at 10 o'clock. No, I'm sorry. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Please join me on Thursday at 10 a.m. where I will be discussing the 15-minute city. Tomorrow morning at 9, I am on Turn the Page with Janine over on Rumble and maybe on YouTube. I'm not sure if what platform she's using, but we're going to have a nice discussion tomorrow morning at 9. And my 15-minute city video is too long to start at 10:30, so I'm going to start it on Thursday. Please let me know if you have any questions about anything that I go over ever in the comments. I absolutely love hearing from you. I'm sorry that I didn't get to the Ford and Marshall very much. There is some information about it possibly being canceled for good. And so I hope to get into that, but I'm probably not till next week. But Ford, it's looking more and more like possibly they're going away, which is totally fine by me. But a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. So there's a win and a loss in a lot of different ways. So, of course, I am for Ford getting the hell out of Dodge. But Thinker for Life says, are you on Truth Social? I am not. I am on Twitter. I know it's called X now, but it'll always be Twitter to me. But I don't know. I get asked a lot about Truth Social. I'm considering it. I know that it's Trump's platform, and I don't trust it because of that. And I'm just going to be honest with you, because I think your presidents are selected. They're not elected. Again, the banks own the government. And Donald Trump went bankrupt, 8 times? He's heavily involved in the banks. So I just feel like if you're on Truth Social, you're on a list, but I'm already on probably several lists anyway, so what does it matter? I should just get on it. And I'll look into it more because I hear good things about it. So thank you for the question, and thank you for hanging out with me. Yeah, I want us to survive. And so again, while the evil collapses upon itself, we need to weather the storm. So learn who your neighbor is, love them despite their flaws, and if you absolutely cannot get along because they are so far in the matrix they cannot be helped, be aware of that. Don't be naive, but if they come looking for food or water, listen to that proverb and help humanity, help your fellow human being, regardless of your opposition now. Do the right thing. Human beings can change, and they deserve love and respect. And so I'm done preaching. I love you guys. Thank you. I will see you hopefully tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Turn the Page with Janine over on Rumble. Thank you guys. Peace out.